All right. Time for your last set of notes for the year. What? Yeah, this is it. I know we still have some time left, but this is what I got because with camp and with testing and everything else that goes on during the school year and other people using the class time for different things, this is normally my last set of notes. So we'll have some things we're doing next week and the next couple weeks that'll make up for anything at time that you think we might be losing here. No, I'm not just going to give you a break. I'm trying to get this thing out of here. It's not wanting to move. But anyway, so this is your last set of notes. We're going to talk about exploration with Dora and Backpack. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? So anyways, where we are at is with this Renaissance, in fact, a lot of places have a lot of money. They want more money. So they're going to go out and explore and see what is out there in the world, much like Dora the Explorer, because we all know that her and Backpack really just want, and Mappy right there, just want to take over the world and get all the treasure that there is. So let's talk about exploration. We've said already that you've got the Silk Road, you've got trade, you've got this land route. I need to clean my computer keyboard. But it's really taxed quite a bit. And Asian goods from the East end up becoming costly. So what they're trying to do is just find faster ways to be able to get those trade goods and then bring them over to the West, which would be Europe. And so they're looking for a faster route since land slow, I'm looking at slow down here, since land travel was tedious. Very long routes took a long period of time. It was like this, Mr. Slow. And so they want to speed it up. So you've got these seas, you've got this ocean that you can use to try and get from one point to the next and speed things up. So they start to use some technology, which did come by way of the East, the Far East. They use what are called astrolabes. Some say astrolabes, either way is fine, from the Arab countries. And compasses, which actually came from the Chinese. So by using these, you're going to be able to be a little more specific. Is that a word? Specific with your directions rather than just having the sky guide you the whole time. So this is going to be helpful direction-wise, but also instead of having these big giant ships, they start to make ships that are much smaller and with sails, and they're able to go a lot faster than you normally would. If you know anything about the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, they actually were much smaller than you probably think that they were. They were not these big sailing ships. They were actually quite small. I've seen some reproductions of them in scale, even like the Mayflower, and I was really taken back as to how small these things were. They were not super big. So these small ships and sails made them go faster. And so you start to have this rise of these strong nations. So here you have, say this is England, or perhaps France, that they were small to begin with and start to get buff and eat their Wheaties, and then they're going to stand up to the rest of the world and hold them up. I love this picture. It's funny. But anyways, so places with large kingdoms and armies end up seeking more wealth. So this would be places that we talked about with the Renaissance: Portugal, Spain, France, and England. That with all this money that they have, they want some more of it. No one ever goes, I got enough money, I don't need any more, especially if you're a country. You try to get more and more, and you're trying to beat everybody else to the punch. So that would include these as the big four. Now, Portugal and Spain would sometimes work together with exploration. France and England were really off by themselves, all trying to be Scrooge McDuck here, swimming in the cash. So let's talk about a few of these explorers from all these different areas. I'm not really going to no specific order other than maybe time frame and just picking out the finer ones from the different places around those four big places. So anyway, so you got your explorers, great movie from the 80s, and then you've got your Ford Explorer there. So the first one we'll talk about is a guy named Vasco da Gama from Portugal. He's got the beard of wisdom and his, I don't know what in the world he's wearing there, but at least he's got the beard of wisdom. So da Gama really starts it off because you got to go somewhere and see what is out there. Land, a lot of it has already been discovered or at least mapped out. The ocean, the seas, not so much. So da Gamas were one of your first ones who rounds the tip of Africa and lands on India's coast. So he's starting from Portugal, which again is over here. You can follow like near the R. He ends up sailing all the way around Africa, bouncing here from place to place, which is a good idea, so you can hit different ports. and then going all the way to India. Bang! So he's able to find a route from Europe to India by the seas. Is it the fastest way? I don't necessarily know. Don't think so much, but at least he's starting the path here from one end to the next. He's able to get around that tip of Africa, which is pretty good. So this is technically that East Asian route that people were looking for, that all-water route. But again, you're looking more for the speed and to see what else is out there. So next one up is the one that we know is Christopher Columbus. Now, take this with a grain of salt. Christopher Columbus, not the greatest person in the world. Yes, we do have Columbus Day. I don't know that we really celebrate it too much. We have Columbus as the capital. But once you've actually done some digging into it, first of all, he did not discover America. No, no, no. That did not happen. Secondly, he was a pretty crummy person. He was involved in the slavery and massacre of people, just not a good person. But in terms of exploration, he was helpful in terms of moving things forward in terms of progress. So Christopher Columbus sailed for Italy on the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria. And they had money in the form of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, who helped to finance these different trips. And so his goal is to go as far west as he can. And in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, something for me and you. He reaches Cuba. Not America. Did not reach that. That would not be Columbus. That's a myth in history that people tell you. Now, it came close, but close only counts, and horseshoes and hand grenades. If you don't know what that means, look it up. But he did reach Cuba. So what that does for the Italians, the Spanish, the English, is first of all mapping out that way to find land that far west, but it'll give them a base to really work out of. So if you can find your way back to wherever you came from and then land in Cuba, and then you go from Cuba to somewhere else, that's pretty key in terms of exploration, as long as you're going to share that out with everybody else. So not to say Columbus is not important. He is, but just not in so much as what we used to think that he was during that time period. Others who came in, Ferdinand Magellan. Magellan, there we go. Wait a second, is that the same picture as the Gama? No, okay. They all just had the same beard cut and the same hat. I don't know, they shared it back and forth. But anyways, good check there. So Ferdinand Magellan, 100 years later, 1592, he finds a route around South America, which is called the Strait of Magellan, named after him. So a nice little pathway all the way around South America. So now what does that mean? That means that you are now on the westward side of South America, and then you can be on the westward side of Central America and the westward side of the United States. There you go. Or follow the waterways into it. So each of these guys are kind of extending what the last person did by going so much further and then seeing what is out there. And he named the Pacific Ocean, and it means peaceful. It's peaceful. I don't know if it's really peaceful. I've been out there and it's salty and gross, and I don't know. It's cool, but I don't know if it's peaceful, but that's what he said. So we name it Pacific Ocean because of Magellan. Now, he is killed in the Philippines, unfortunately, and his crew, not him, become the first to sail around the world. So let me scroll back. Yoink, yoink. And if he ends up getting this far, he's going to head, and he's in South Pacific Ocean. He's going to go all the way over here. He's going to wave hello to not Florida, to Hawaii as he goes past. And he's going to land in the Philippine Islands there, and he's killed by those people. And his crew end up going back home, and they're the ones who kind of get the acclaim to be the first to sail around the world, even though it was in the name of Magellan. Anyways, your fourth guy is Jacques Cartier. He is a French guy, Jacques Cartier. Jacques, also known as Jack, I suppose, Jack Carter. I don't know. Same beard, same hat, all the same fashion of the time period. Cartier's sailing for France. He ends up coming by way of a different direction as he comes up. You can see the inset picture there, up towards Canada. 1534, as the map says, is that he sails from France, from the east to the west, goes around Newfoundland, that's come into this little area called the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and ends up close to your Great Lake region. But this is one of the reasons why France ends up settling Canada, because they are one of the first ones to get into there. So where they are up here, England will be down right in here. We'll talk about them next year. So again, it's the idea that one guy goes one distance, next guy takes over, goes even further, goes in a different direction. But bottom line, here's what this opens up. Really everybody. It opens up trade and settlement in North America, and it really becomes a race between the English in the middle part, the French in the top part, and the Espanol, the Spanish, in the lower part, which would include Florida and parts of Texas as well. And really all of South America, but Spanish. So it opens up trade and settlement, which is going to carry on to the next thing called the Columbian Exchange, because there is a result of all of this, and we're now trading. The Columbian Exchange is easy, called Columbian because it's after Christopher Columbus, and it's about stuff going from the left to the right and stuff going from the right to the left. For the most part, it's pretty good as it comes from the left to the right. Look at all this yummy stuff, a lot of vegetables, got some Twinkies, some potatoes, corn. All this stuff is native here, and it ends up going over here. Now, on the flip side, these things are native to these countries, and they end up coming over here, like onions and olives and turnips. Those are gross. Coffee beans, they love that stuff. Your grains, your livestock, and yoinks, all these diseases. Because all these people, long civilizations, they've been carrying on this stuff for a long period. They come over here, cough, cough on these people, and they end up getting them sick and killing a lot of them, especially Native Americans up in the north as well. But it's an exchange of goods and an exchange of, I suppose, some bads at the same time period. That's what the Columbian Exchange is. It's fairly simple. So, named after Christopher Columbus, it describes the exchange of goods and bads, as I said, between Africa, Europe, Asia, and America. It's the better part of a couple different continents, North and South, Africa, and Europe, and Asia over here too. So 5 continents, I would say. And as we progress, it's going to have some bads, as I said too. So let's look at some of these things. So America gives to the east potatoes, tomatoes, corn, chocolate, num num num, and tobacco. Gross. In their results, potatoes end up feeding more Europeans than grain. Ireland ends up really becoming big with potatoes until they have the potato famine, where their potato crop really doesn't grow, and then a lot of them end up moving to America and other places. We have Italian sauces. That's like my Mario accent, I think. And you have healthier animals in Europe because their food is much better. You get to grow corn just for the animals. America gained, what do we get? We got wheat and barley and rice and coffee and bananas and pajamas and big bananas. I don't even know what that is. And pigs and horses and all these cool things that we will use later to especially grow the United States. At first I thought these dudes all have one leg, but I guess they're behind them. Bananas and pajamas, I don't get it. But anyways, a result of this is their diets changed due to this new food. Farmers could grow different crops in this new land and survive. Native Americans will end up using horses in the Great Plains. So a lot of things you thought were native to the United States, tisk, 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 you were wrong. Overall effects of this whole thing, here's some points to this whole Columbian Exchange. Tobacco and sugar cane end up being quite big in the Americas, as we'll talk about next year early on. And then we'll talk about the way that it leads into slavery, because those are very laborious crops. They take a lot of labor and effort to use them. And then because of this exploration as well, Europe ends up conquering some of these Asian areas, like India. Britain had a long time period, they had control of India as a colony, but they end up setting up trade like the East India Company. Anybody know what came from the East India Company? Didn't figure. Tea. And tea will be a big part of the United States, especially in the 1700s, because Boston has a, wait for it, tea party, in which they dump a bunch of tea into Boston Harbor, but that is for another year next year. Yeah, another time next year. But anyways, and at the same time, for Asia, a few things changed. Japan imported guns, and they removed their feudal lords. Their feudal system fell apart once gunpowder and guns came into play. It actually united Japan, that you would no longer have these dynasties that had been successful for so long, that they move into different things politically and socially as well. And as I said, a big negative is the Europeans in their grossness, bringing disease to the New World, ended up killing millions. So this section of notes really segues a lot into next year and things that will be important at that time period. So make sure your notes are complete. Make sure you turn them back in. Make sure you have done the questions on the back. And turn them back in so you get all your points. And then you need to start studying your vocabulary and your notes because you will have a quiz and a test coming up soon. Do not forget to tell your parents to get some things for a Catapult project, and do not start it ahead of time. And do not take your siblings' ones that they've done for me in the past and call them your own. That's cheating. So we'll talk about that next week. Have a good day. Good day.